Welcome to the first of several alumni panels in 2025. My name is Maddie. I'm the Partnership Development Manager at CircuitStream, and I'm joined today by a panel of our wonderful alumni who are here to chat with you folks about their experience at CircuitStream, how they got a job, all of those kinds of things. Before we jump in, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Maddie. I will be moderating the panel today. I've been with CircuitStream for about 4 months now, so I've done a couple of these events, and I'm excited to bring more of our industry pros into our network. CircuitStream is a leading provider of tech education. We started in 2015 through a network of UX designers, and we now offer boot camps, youth programs, in software development, product management, game design, and game development. We are partners with a lot of industry-leading companies, including the ones you see here and so many more. Our partners join us for events, they hire our students, they come chat with folks, all kinds of stuff like that. We are educational partners with a lot of top universities. We deliver these programs in partnership with their continuing education programs. So in each of the big cities that we are present in, we have some backing for universities. Today, I am joined by 3 panelists who are CircuitStream alumni. We have B. Capitan, who joined us for the UX UI design course back in September 2023. B is now an entrepreneur, founder and director of Interactive B Media. Also joined by Matt Koopman, who was a game development student starting back in May 2023. He's now working for Lazy Lion Games, which is a game studio created by another alumni here at CircuitStream. And we're also joined by Scott, who started his game design course February 2024 and has worked as a lead narrative designer for Ford Hammer Entertainment. So welcome, folks. We are so excited to have you today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking an hour or so out of your busy week and chat with us and our prospective students. I would love to kick things off with some introductions. So I'll just call on you guys each one at a time. So if you could please tell us who you are, what you do, and sort of a very brief overview of your sort of career path until this point, and then I'll ask you some more questions after getting more detailed into there. So we'll start with B. You can go ahead.
Oh, first of all, thank you, Maddie, for having me here and the other amazing panel. It's an honor. So my name is B. Capitan, and I'm just really excited about the future of augmented reality. I took the XR prototyping and design course at CircuitStream, and as Maddie said, at the end of 2023. And it was one of the better decisions I've made in my career. I've taken a lot of different courses. I'm a certificate girl. I love learning the basics of things just to get me through the door so I can understand on a deeper dive if I want to go there. So my company is Interactive B Media. I have been around since 2016. I started out as a web designer, and one of my clients was UBC back in the early 2000s. So I'm dating myself a little bit, but that's where it came from. And then I progressed into interactive publishing, and I was using touch technology for the iPad, specific books for them. And then now I'm transitioning to adding augmented reality to enterprises and gamifying things for industries such as luxury, distilleries. It goes on, digital twins. I could talk for hours, AI. So I'm a geek. I'm going to geek out with you. I'm looking forward to just sharing a whole bunch of resources that outside of CircuitStream that are going to boost you up and get ready that you really want to take on this career. If it's right for you, that is, of course.
Awesome. Thank you, B. Well, thank you for joining us, and we're happy to have you here. Next up, Matthew.
Hey there. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everyone for coming. My name's Matt, obviously, and I'm a sound designer and game developer. I took the CircuitStream course as a way to basically to try to take my love for music and sound and just basically kind of expand upon it and try to make it into something that I could take into other industries. And it was I agree with B, it was one of the best decisions for me, because I not only did I like learn a lot hands-on, a lot of theory, I made a lot of contacts, met a lot of great people, had some really fun kind of like class experiences all over virtual that I've taken other things online before, and it wasn't as like kind of interactive, and yet generally smaller cohorts if on average, and that really kind of enhances your kind of collaborative spirit with each other. And yeah, I guess to speak about my kind of the reason why I got into it was, like I said, it was from the music world, from the sound design world, and I just think that there's so many different avenues that you can come from to get into game development, to get into UX, UI design, to get into, there's just so many tangential industries besides just making games, besides, you know, just pure entertainment. There's so many opportunities for that. And now I'm kind of pivoting into education, and I'm excited to take the video game world into education, whether it be educational games or simulation type things to do with education. It's a really satisfying industry. It's a very, and I think that it's just a lot of fun in general too. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I'm excited to dive a little bit more into what you're working on now. So we'll definitely chat about that in a bit. And last but certainly not least, we have Scott. Please go ahead.
Hi there. Yeah, so I'm Scott Garson, and yes, I'm an alumnus from 2024 in the game design program. I found it to be, you know, a really great program. I came from the world of software engineering and web design, or web development rather, and you know, after, you know, the layoffs in that industry, I did some bit of soul searching and realized I'd rather create things rather than maintain code bases. So here I am, you know, learning game design. It was a fantastic overview of, you know, of everything. You know, everyone kind of had their own little areas that they leaned into. You know, some for narrative, some for development, some for design. And so, you know, I consider myself to be a multidisciplinary, cross-functional generalist, which I can just, you know, hopefully be able to hop into and, you know, wear many hats and leverage my entire skill set. I'm a continuous learner. I've been, you know, right now I'm learning digital music production. I want to do, you know, be able to do cinematic composing myself, a bit of voice acting, UI and UX, but I really leaned into the Unreal development side of things too. So yeah, happy to share my journey with everyone, and, you know, maybe they can learn from my wins and my mistakes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you, everyone. I guess we'll just keep going in the same order. If anyone wants to jump in, please go ahead. But if you guys could talk about, just to start off with, think about pre-boot camp. You guys were all at varying levels of your career, of your state. You all mentioned this very briefly, just that you were looking for a change and wanted to kind of pivot into either gaming or, as B said, kind of gather more skills. But we'll go same order, B, Matt, and Scott. But what were you doing before Circuit Stream, and what motivated you to choose Circuit Stream?
Well, that's a good question. So I learned something new about myself I didn't know, and maybe I'm just going to share this with other people because I think it'll help understand why I'm really interested in this career. I didn't realize, so you learn a lot about like things that come up on your YouTube feed, that some people can't conjure up pictures in their head when they're thinking about creative thoughts or other things. And I'm like, what? Because that's what I do. Like, I have huge vision, and I found out it's called hyperphantasia. And there's some people, so everybody's on a spectrum. It doesn't mean you've got a disability or anything. It's just how our brains are wired. So I mean, I grew up, playing games and then watching my partners play games and like, I learned out what a BFG was and some of these things, and I would be just so entertained. But I could see the whole world and then dial down into what was sitting on a shelf in a cottage somewhere. So having these big kind of perceptions, it's kind of the same as a film director would have that kind of idea, perceptions. And so when you're thinking about what I was doing prior to this is I have beautiful clients that I love. I've won a lot of awards for them, and it's made me realize the power of branding and communicating in different ways and how you can do that. So I was at the London Book Fair in 2021, and I was showing my interactive book that I had done for my client called Norjanet. And I was showing her like the pop-ups. It's all made for the iPad, so no Kindle here, and where you're leaving money on the table, unfortunately. But I was showing it to her, and she was like, wow, my next door neighbor, she's from Ireland, she's like, has this like distillery, he's made this whiskey distillery, and he should have like a book like this, And I said, and then something just, I don't know where out of the blue, I said, no, it needs to be a high-end book, but using augmented reality, right? That eco bridge, because Apple discontinued the software that was making all these amazing books. And it was also very much for education as well. So it was called iBooks Author. So right now, what their substitute is just Pages. But I took that idea and then I started sharing it, and I started coming together thinking like, avatars for tours for distilleries, merch where you can have an app and you get to see something happening on somebody's t-shirt. It's like a little secret society. And I just thought of all the opportunities that you can engage people through augmented reality. Most people have a cell phone that can do it now. And it's been around for a long time, augmented reality, but we've had to have the devices that could actually accommodate all of what it is, especially with latency, like the downloads and so forth. And where I got really excited was I started to research who out there is offering this kind of, I put out all my ideas on paper, and then I put together a presentation and I showed it to some people. And I realized that I really needed to be around people who were doing this. I needed to figure out, I'm not going to become a developer, right? But I need to know how to talk to one, especially about Unity. How long does things take? What are some of the challenges we might face, in terms of software and hardware? And I thought if I learned about those things and I surrounded myself with really talented, smart people, that some of that might rub off on me, that magical pixie dust, and I would learn more about where the needs that I can fill and add value outside and gamify things, obviously, but it just opened up the doors for so many different things. So I was working on books and websites, and kind of like Scott, I've when you're a designer and you've done it for a while, you have a client saying, go, can you do that for me? And then you're interested in other things and you're like, can I do this for you? Can we add that and elevate things? So I've always had clients, but I want to pivot and make experiences that are of value, that provide, even if it's a glimpse of joy for a moment. That's what our whole world is, what we're living for. So I'm excited about offering these to different enterprises, things like digital twins, geospatial, which I've done some of and had a lot of fun of creating these things and plotting them all over the earth, like Valentine's in New Zealand, in UK, on the West Coast, and it's all interactive through Adobe Arrows program. But I wouldn't have known about that if I hadn't taken the course. And then I signed up and had the beta. So I rambled a little bit, but there's so much to talk about. And I'm just really excited, and I want to hear about what everybody else is doing too.
Awesome. Thank you, B. Matt, what were you doing before Circuit Stream, and why did you choose us?
I was working as a IT technician. Actually, was my first kind of like job in technology. I was kind of doing a little bit of scripting. I was doing system admin work, servicing physical machines and that kind of thing. But that was kind of my daytime life. And then I had kind of my after work life, which was I basically was trying to make it as a musician, as a producer, as a music producer, as a doing mixing, sound design. I worked on a couple short films, stuff like that, and I was just kind of just taking anything I could to do with music and audio and stuff like that. And then I just decided to go down the education path and found CircuitStream while I was living in Vancouver, and figured why not get some direct project type experience in a short period of time and be able to come out with some projects that I could call my own. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Scott, please go ahead.
So I've I don't know how far back in depth of time, and don't want to date myself, but I've worked in advertising as a front end developer, and career slowly evolved into being more of a front end engineer, full stack developer, and I was working as a software architect for a company. And part of what they're asking, had me look into was, AI and ChatGPT and how we could use that to help automate documentation process. So, while I was working on that, and up until the layoffs began, I was working on a side project that kind of leveraged the same idea, except doing it with writing. So I'd created a platform where I could generate characters and locations and have generate dialogue between two characters, put them two together, give them a topic of conversation, say go, and then it was just amazing what it would come up with. And so in the meantime, I was writing my own fantasy saga, and I was trying to do an ebook, an audio book, and a video book all concurrently, with the idea of releasing those episodically over time. I didn't really find a way to monetize that, but I figured if I could find a way to get paid for doing this, right, for writing, for creating the characters, for designing the 3D models for the characters, and the editing and doing the audio and all that, I figured I would be in heaven. That would be my dream job if I could get paid to just create. So that's where I thought, okay, well, what industry could do that? And that would be, gaming. I thought would be a good place to go, right? So I looked at a few places. I was humming and hawing of, should I justify the expense of retraining, or can I learn this myself? And for most of my career, I've been self-taught, right? I picked up software engineering. I don't have my degree is in communications and dramatic arts, particularly film studies, right? But I taught myself everything. But I figured, okay, I need to accelerate this. I need, to know what I'm doing, and also to get to know people in the industry. So I figured I would, hopefully be able to impress the instructors and have them refer me to the people they know, but also make, form relationships with my fellow students, right? We help each other out. And then, if I happen to get in somewhere, I can think of someone in my cohort that I could bring on if something opens up. So yeah. So anyhow, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm a continuous learner, as I said. So, CircuitStream is just one of many courses that I've taken, but I had a great experience with CircuitStream.
Awesome. Thinking about your experience in CircuitStream and during your boot camp, can you guys talk about what your experience was like, and what were some of the really valuable skills that you developed during the program? B, we can start with you.
I'm just trying to select. There's so many things to say. Well, first of all, I just want to say that the instructors that I had were very accommodating. And one of the things that I needed to succeed was to have closed captions on, because when you're taking the courses, they're recorded. And I found that really beneficial, especially after the fact when I was trying to do my projects, is maybe, especially my instructor had this really lovely, like what is it? Like they're from Texas. So we've all got different accents, right? And other teachers as well. So if I could see the closed captions, that helped me tremendously, because I'm a visual learner, as well as I need to if I have the visual and the words together, that's when it really sticks for me. So knowing that about myself and how I learned the best, and checking in first before jumping into extreme, saying, can you accommodate me for that? And hands down was not a problem. And being a part of, I like the bite-size assignments, and then you're doing them with other people, and then you're doing it by yourself. And because this is like a part-time, I think that was excellent for me, because I did do BCIT intensive, and that was, they were teaching things that were already being like going to be discontinued, like, Director, if anybody remembers that, way back in the day, like, and this is the beginnings of Flash and stuff like that. And so there was just too much. But at this, because there's a lot to learn, and you can learn it in bite sizes, and you're with other people that you can connect with, and there's support on Discord. And I also, I took the package that gave extra help. I just said, because I don't want to flounder, I want to succeed. And everybody passed through, like trying to get, the headset to go through my Mac through Unity. I like, why is this, not working? And so there was people to help me, right? If I was doing it, and now I am like Scott and Matt, I'm like, if I learn something, I'm in. I'm like, but sometimes when you've got other work going on and family and everything else, and you're taking a course, to have that extra help just to give a bit of clarity, it just made such a difference. Because then I was stressed about doing the best, not, no, I can't do this. There's different kinds of stresses that come when you take courses. And I've taken courses like that where I'm like, this is just stressing me out. I'm not really absorbing this information, and here comes some more, right? So this was, and no, I'm going to tell you right off, I'm going to be honest with everybody. Unity is a beast, okay? But what it is when you're a designer and it's meant for developers, but as soon as you learn the concepts of how you're going to create worlds, how you're going to apply physics, how you're going to talk to a developer, and you can coordinate with someone, because you're going to understand what it is. So as soon as you get, I wouldn't call them less sophisticated, I would just call alternatives and maybe more user-friendly, things like Spline, other things, they're going to borrow from those types of Unity's, dashboard interface, how you use it. It's just going to click in a lot sooner. And again, I want to say, if you're working with professional game developers, I think you need to really understand how Unity works in order to be successful in that, because you have to know how to communicate what's going on. You can't go and not understand, like, there's physics involved, like the bowling game, right? That was really good. It was a practical idea, but at the same time, it made you understand, like, there's got to be all these things to make it work. So, and it was real world kind of ideas, but dialing it back to make it user friendly enough, but also challenging, because there's more to learn, right? So I hope I answered your question. Did I?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that a lot of students tell us, is that they get to come out of our programs with a portfolio, which really helps them set them up for their careers or their projects or whatever, and helps them refer back to what they did. So I'm glad you mentioned that, the sort of bite-size, tangible work that you do. It's really important. So thank you. Yeah, you did answer my question. Matt, we can go over to you. So what was your experience like, and what valuable skills would you say you learned?
Yeah, the experience of it was very well structured. I thought, generally speaking, that especially because it was actually really well done considering how it was a fairly new program. I think it was
Mhm.
like only in its second year when I did it. So I was actually, upon leaving the program, I was really impressed. But it was structured very sequentially. But um, instead of just like doing meaningless kind of um, projects that don't really yield to like a game, it was like from the very start, it was like you're given a bunch of assets. You didn't have to create assets, but you could replace assets if you
Mhm.
really felt like I took it on myself to try to learn a little bit of Blender, to try to make a couple assets. I didn't make that much, but you're basically given everything. If you didn't want to make visual assets, or you didn't want to make sounds or anything like that, you were given that kind of stuff, or told where to access it for free or for whatever. Um, and then all along you're progressing while you're making an actual game. Like the first project is like a bowling game. You're making a simple, flashy kind of like like old school internet kind of bowling game, and it's simple, but it would be it could be challenging right off the bat, and you could basically take it as far as you want it. And that's what I liked about it, is that every game that you would make, because every unit was essentially a new game.
Mhm.
You Every game that you were working on, you could essentially take it as far as you want. And my decision with going into the program was to try to take it and do sound design. So like I wanted to tackle more of the sound stuff and try to include my own sounds, or record my own sounds, or record my own, or add my own music to it. And you could, it was open ended enough like that you could flush it out into whatever way you want. You wouldn't you didn't have to end up with 12 people in the program with 12 identical games. It was 12 people with 12 forms of creativity. And so in that sense, I learned the concrete skills. Of course, I guess I should talk about that. That there was a lot of like you learn a lot of concrete kind of programming skills. If I already had some programming experience, but if going into it you have none, you're going to learn that. You're going to learn that, and then you're going to learn the ins and outs of Unity, and then on top of that, you'll learn some kind of strategies for applying your own creativity. So that's the best thing that came out of it for me. Was I feel like I learned just how the mind of a game developer kind of works in the ways that they're presenting the projects and stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. And I think the ability to take exactly what you want out of it is really important to us. And even if you don't know what you want specifically going into it, it'll be really clear when you get started, what kind of things you're more interested in. So yeah, like you said, the sound, you've got like a musical background, and you are really interested in that part. So you could develop that more. And whereas someone who's really interested in the visuals could work on that a little more. So yeah, that's awesome. And Scott, yeah, what was it like for you, and what did you learn?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that I learned was collaboration and the value of that, right? Particularly as a game designer, where to be able to know and to know enough about the various domains to be dangerous, right? Enough to be able to effectively communicate with other people who are smarter than you in the respective domains, right? I've always been more of a lone wolf, right? And theoretically, I'm trying to build up my skills so I could build a game entirely on my own. But the real value is working with a team, where again, as a game designer or narrative designer, enough both those various domains to be able to communicate with the sound people and with the 3D designers and modelers, right? And know, how to, for example, say, okay, we need to have, relatively low poly. This asset might be too expensive for the system, right? So I found that was great. Another thing is I found that the instructor was able to individually help us out, right? Would have a bit of a Q&A after, right? So if I was struggling with a blueprint, I could, he would, he was more than happy to, sit, but to sit with me, even a little bit after hours to work that through, right? And I tried to pay that back a little bit or pay that forward with some of the other students, right? If they were struggling with blueprints and or their projects, and oh, this is due on Monday, could you help, right? So, I do some pair programming with them to help them out as well. So yeah, there's that. That and the I think that I think to Matthew's point, there were a lot of different games that we got to build, right, and with different themes, and that kind of got our creative juices flowing. And as a result, I've got quite a few game prototypes in my back pocket that I'd love to develop out. I think they would be really cool to do. If I can, find someone who wants to, to build it with me and pay me to do so, right? So,
Yeah.
or when I've got the luxury of free time, I can, bills are paid. Okay, cool. Now I can work on the fun stuff, right?
Yeah, totally.
I actually wanted to add that I like Scott got me thinking that it was actually probably one of the biggest things was that when I went to the job that I ended up getting, that I was actually able to draw upon the direct experience of like working with GitHub. GitHub is like it's a very kind of stressful thing if you aren't familiar with it, and the fact that we were given a lot of chances to fiddle around with it and to make mistakes and stuff like that. You don't have to do that when you get to a job or whatever. So and that for several different parts of Unity and development. But I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and thank you all for those answers. I think you touched on a lot of different elements of our boot camps and some things that we like to think make us unique. And it's so hands-on, and the classes are small on purpose because we want you guys to be able to work one-on-one with these instructors and get the most out of it. And like I think all of you said, some of the programs that we use and that are used in software or game development are beasts. And it's learning a coding language is like learning a new verbal language. It's a lot of work, but the support you receive hopefully made you all feel successful, and it sounds like it did. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I wanted to add too that that the going into Unreal, because every lesson we did or every module, we were building up our skills in Unreal, because I think the as a game designer, part of the expectation is for you to be able to prototype these things, right? At least get it to a level where you can demonstrate a vertical slice, right? That's a concept from Agile. You want to build something that works, and then you can, if necessary, send that to the actual developers to build out, right? So the learning Unreal through Circuit Stream through this game design course, that actually gave me an advantage for another course that I took in virtual production, which is using Unreal Engine for making films, movies and TV shows, right? So that gave me a very good, very strong foundation in that, and a bit of an advantage. So just wanted to add that bit.
Awesome. Yeah, we love to hear that. And I mean, practical skills are so valuable. And sometimes job seekers come out of university or different programs and they're like, well, I need experience to get a job, but I need job to get experience. And so I think that it's great that you can get those experiences in the program so that you can take them and already have those when applying. So yeah, that's awesome. I love this question, and you can answer this absolutely any way at all, but what is one thing that you wish you knew about starting this boot camp or before when you were starting out? B, we can start with you.
Unity. Unity. I should have watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos at least to get myself immersed in what Unity was. I knew it was a game engine. I mean, I have, I learned how to be a web designer by looking at View Source, right? Back in the early 2000s. And so I love tech, but I also think if I had just given myself a little bit more room to self-learn a little bit. And just so then when I did have this opportunity to go deeper, that I would have had a little bit more confidence. That's the only thing I would say in to someone. And I would just, the other thing I'm going to say is, I'm going to throw it out there. This is, if you really want to learn how, like, it's the end result. Like, these are the tools and the methods, but the end result is, what do you want, right? And how are you going to channel that and not get distracted, by all these other things? So balancing life, even though this is a part-time course, I took it very seriously. So I cut down my workload, right? I made sure that I was walking more in between taking breaks. And I didn't give myself enough time to play. I just went hard. And so I think if I did something like this again, I would be a little bit more gentle with myself, and know that learning something new, no matter how old you are, I've met people who have switched careers and they're superstars. They just get it. You never know when you're going to bloom, right? I mean, it's amazing to see people develop, but knowing your own learning style and setting up yourself for success is really important, like pre-made meals, you know what I mean? Little things like that, just because learning is exciting, but it's also challenging, right? And when there's that downtime, and this is not like a one-day thing, it's 10 weeks, right? For mine. And I loved it, but also I think self-care is important. So I'm just putting that out just as like Auntie B going, take care of yourself, because if you feel good, you can create and do more, right? And do more of why you're here, and don't burn yourself out is what I guess I'm saying to people.
Yeah.
What was the second part of the question? What was?
Yeah, it was just what you wish you knew. And I think you answered that well. And I like that you approached it from a holistic perspective. And I know some of our boot camps are shorter and some of them are 36 weeks. So a lot of folks are in this for a long time, and pacing yourself, taking things at your own pace, learning about yourself as a learner, that's all very important. And I think there might be a misconception that because it's a boot camp and it's easier or something, but it's certainly not. It takes a lot of work, but as you've said, you'll get out what you put into it. So
that's right.
That's great. You definitely answered the question. That's awesome. Thank you. Matt, what's one thing that you wish you knew before starting?
Mine is actually going to be post program. There was a lot of moments where it was a lot of work, but I think that everyone finds their own way to deal with that. Mine was definitely post graduating or post finishing the program and not being able to find a job at the pace that I would have liked, or even not even hearing much back from people. When you're not able to find a job and you really want a job, time moves slow. People get back to you at a snail's pace, it feels like. The emails, you go, well, what do these people do all day? They're not emailing me back. No, it just makes light of the fact that it's a tough feeling like you can't, like it's not working out. And a lot of people have been in that situation with other jobs and other industries as well. The advice I would give there with that is just keep showing up every day, and just remember that it's like a job on its own. Searching for a job, you got to just keep showing up. You got to take breaks. You got to try to show up at a specific set of hours or whatever. And the other thing is just never turn away from a opportunity to meet someone or talk to someone, because sometimes it comes from unlikely people. Mine ended up coming from my job ended up coming from an instructor that actually taught at Circuit Stream. So he went on to form his own company. I ended up joining that company, and my contract has just ended, but it was a great it was an incredible experience. I've released a game. There is a Steam game. It's on Steam. And that is like a really valuable thing to have. And yeah, just don't be afraid. And even if you're the kind of person that says, you know what, I might want to be the person that creates my own company after and go that route, that's perfectly serviceable too, in the sense that you'll could end up with a game that goes to Steam. And yeah, I think that just don't be discouraged by that process after, especially with the industry. My timing was really terrible. Just don't get discouraged by the job search grind.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about the career element. And since you guys have left us, we've overhauled our career program, and we give career support for 180 days post graduation. So when you're in that career grind now, if you're thinking about joining us, I mean, we'll be right there with you, helping you every step of the way. So yeah, the career stuff is tough, and I'm glad you brought it up, and we will talk a bit more about that. But first, yeah, Scott, what did you wish you knew before starting?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna riff right off of Matthew's comments because I kind of went in with unrealistic expectations. I kind of figured that okay, I graduate from this program and now I get to go and pick my job off of the job tree, right? It's not like that. I committed to the program before the carnage began, right? And just the reality for me, I found is that 100,000 people are being laid off at least, right? And I'm competing with people with 10, 15 years experience, and I'm coming in, hey, I'm brand new, right? And shiny new, game designer, give me a job, please, right? It's really not that. So I think it's what I found is that you need to meet people who are in the position to make decisions on hiring, right? So networking is very important. Even if it's just networking amongst your cohort, right? Or joining a game jam, getting thrown together with some random people, right? You work well together. Maybe something could develop out of those relationships, right? Maybe they get hired somewhere and they're looking for, a sound designer or a UI, or a VR expert, right? Well, hey, I know B, I know Matthew. Why don't you, bring them in, right? So I think it's just the power of your network is in people hire people, right? I found that that by the time when the company is posting a job on LinkedIn or Indeed, they've exhausted all other options, right? They want someone to, hey, do you know someone who does this? Great, let me bring him in, right? Or or looking for referrals, right? And then if they do get to the point of posting a job, they're unicorn hunting, because that's when you get those unrealistic, hey, we want an entry level position, but you need to have 3 to 5 years experience and 2 ship titles by the AAA studio, right? So unicorns by definition don't exist, right? Some people are close. I mean, there's the unicorn in terms of people that can do a bunch of different things, right? Which I'm sure B would be, and Matthew would be, and myself included. But there's also the hey, we are looking for a senior level position who knows everything except we want to pay them as an entry level, right? So it's a little frustrating, to try and a little demoralizing, but oh, sorry, one moment. So I say just don't get demoralized. Maybe just look at the job descriptions and get an idea of what skills you might need to develop. But at the same time, you maybe reach out to people, on LinkedIn, and get those, hey, can I talk to you? You're doing exactly what I'd like to do. Do you have any advice? Right? Kind of that back door to to again make that human connection. Right, not cynically to say, hey, I'm just trying to be nice to you just so I can get a job from you, right? It's
Yeah.
Hey, I want to be a narrative designer, do you have any pointers, or how would you solve this quest design problem, right? or
Yeah.
how do you make a sick beat for the background track, or what would you do for this genre of game? What would you recommend for the music background, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think getting your foot in the door in the industry it's challenging and it can be intimidating. And I think one thing we started doing is a lot more career Ask Me Anythings. I think between April and May, we're hosting 11 career Ask Me Anythings with either hiring managers or industry experts. So I think that's one thing we've really ramped up in the last little bit is opportunities to network with hiring professionals in the industry. And I think that is a huge piece for a lot of job seekers. And, our ideal state is a cohort that graduates with a comprehensive portfolio and a bunch of industry connections. And I would love to talk to you guys about that. I know the gaming industry has been hit pretty hard in the last few years with layoffs and things like that. I think you guys each have a very different career path until now. And I would love to hear your experiences looking for jobs after Circuit Stream and how you landed your first role. I know, Matt, you had, previously networked with an instructor. Obviously, now you're with Lazy Lion. I did post your game in the chat if anyone wants to check it out. I know, B, you're more of an entrepreneur and things like that. And so, anyone can start with this one, but just KB, we'll start with you. How did you land your first role? What was the job experience or job search experience like for you? B, go ahead.
Okay. So being an entrepreneur, I just want to just jump off. Like, it's so great. Like, as I hear each other, like we just build, it's like this beautiful mountain network of success and great ideas. So to jump on what both Scott and Matthew were saying is, I went to AWE in Long Beach last year. And that was one of the best career moves I've ever made. I go to conferences around the world. I am actually an introvert, but if you get me in a room where I can geek out with somebody, right, I'm in my element. These are my tribe. These are my people. And guess what? At AWE, my instructors were there. I met people that I only knew from Twitter, X, and I met them in real life. And the breakout sessions, man, oh man, I just need to just share this. Okay, so one of the things that I'm really, being a mature woman, I care about the world and the people and the things that I put out. And some of the things are, I don't want to be sued. I don't want to create things where all of a sudden I'm liable because somebody's walking around like Pokemon Go and they've hurt themselves, So there was like 2 breakout sessions with lawyers, right? Do you want to bet? I asked them questions. I want to make sure that if there's children involved and I'm doing stuff that's like geospatial, right? That everything's going to be okay. Like, I have business insurance, right? But even if you're not having your own company, learning these things is imperative, right? Also, analytics. That's what people want. Any marketing, any game, they're like, how are we making a difference? How is this actually working? So I've been on the hunt for about analytics using haptics and everything else. And couple 4 weeks ago, because I went to AWE, there was an AWE representative and they said, we're putting on this meet and greet networking thing. And I joined and I went and I met somebody who's local who does exactly that. Analytics for everything, and they are groundbreaking. And because of that, I met another woman. She's like, we're looking for students. So when you have your first real big project B, which I'm working on right now, I'm almost ready with my samples. I'm researching all my targets. I'm not waiting for people to come to me. I'm stealthing. I'm going behind the scenes and finding out what their pain points are and how I can make it amazing, right? How I can make their brand shine. And so when you learn about analytics, the legal, you get involved in conferences and you feel the vibe. You get your bum on a plane and you stick your hand out and you go to things like XR Women. XR Women meets every week. And that you can wear your headset. It's like on a metaverse type of scenario. They're helping women. And there's not just everybody who's 20. There's people over 40 who have contributed hugely, like scientists, people who behavioralists, right? And they're really caring about the effects of what some of these headsets were wearing. And I want to just share this guy, Nick. I should know his company off the name of my top of my tongue, but some of the things, the innovations that are taking place. And this is, again, just networking and learning about what other people are doing. It really gets you lit up. They're using like the headsets for people who are possibly cancer patients, people who need a lot of medication in order to survive. His, I guess it's kind of like a meditation, but it's relaxing and everything else. I could be wrong, but I think it's between 20 and 30% of those individuals from trying that, they didn't ask for more medication. Like, how substantial is that? They have a better well-being. So this technology, it goes just beyond gaming, right? And when you meet people and you see how driven they are in all different industries, places like AWE, which I'm really hoping with all the stuff that's going on in the world that, I want to be at Long Beach. And boy, do they know how to put on a party, man. There's like the Boston Mechanics dog doing a dance, and there's big food trucks and everything. But I just want to say that that's just where, if you really want to geek out and you really want to meet people, go to that if you can afford it. I just wanted to say that, like, it just gets me really excited about. And there's one happening in Europe. It's in the beginning of December. They kind of amalgamated it. I think it's in Brussels. So if for whatever reason I can't do Long Beach, I'm definitely going to do that one. So if you go, look for me, either one, say hi.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, B. I know, like you mentioned, the networking piece is so huge, and it really doesn't matter what industry. There's so many transferable skills, and you never know what connections can spark new opportunities. So thank you for that. Matt, why don't you talk about landing your role after boot camp and how you got there?
Yeah, like I said, the person that ended up being my employer was that contracted me to do the sound design was an instructor. He wasn't my instructor, he was a instructor. But while I was in the program, I tried to meet as many people as I can, which I encourage everyone to do. Just even if it's not your class, like there's other cohorts going on sometimes at the same time. There's other sort of programs that you can connect with people, like reach out to on the Discord and stuff. That's how I ended up getting it, was how I met someone like that. But the job search was tough. There's no doubt about that. My girlfriend was very supportive, and we went through some moments. So you're gonna have some moments. So be ready for that. But be positive, because it was kind of it came a bit later than I had hoped, like more financially speaking than anything. But it did come. And it was almost like I had planted all these seeds, and then I was watering these plants, and I was like trying to keep watering them and hoping they were going to just pop out of the ground. They didn't pop out of the ground until I turned away, left for 2 or 3 weeks, come back, and they're full on flowers. So that was how I would say that kind of went. So be patient. You might have to have a little bit of a backup plan for things you might need to do in the meantime. But it'll come. Like I think I'm proof of it. And I don't feel like I did anything special. I don't think I did anything special, really. So anyone can do it.
Yeah, I think the average time to find a job in the tech industry across the board in North America is about 6 months. And that's just kind of just across the board. So if that's the average, I mean, some are getting jobs right away, some are getting jobs a lot longer than that. And so, I'm happy for you. I'm really excited and can't wait to see what you do in the future. I know that Mythic Merchants, the game that you guys created, it's pretty cool. I know Leo's really excited. So Yeah, and that's a
That's
great
awesome.
testimonial to networking within your cohort as well. I mean, you met a ton of
Definitely.
people and it worked out, right?
Yeah, because most of the people that you're gonna want to work with are going to be people that you've seen directly work, or you've heard directly their stuff. You can get that through sharing your portfolio. I did make a website. I think that did help. I used to get a lot of traffic through that, and it was shared amongst circuit streams. So that I think that having like things like that available, just portfolio type things, easily present your work is a good idea. So
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, in our career program too, we definitely emphasize the importance of having a portfolio and sharing it for sure. So that's, yeah, great advice. Yeah, Scott, how did you land your first role after Circuit Stream, and what was that like for you?
Scott, I think you're muted.
Yeah. I still can't hear you.
Right, there we go. How's this?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so my entry kind of came out of my deep past. I used to work at McKinsey as a digital specialist, and on one of my engagements, I ran a one-shot, a Dungeons and Dragons one-shot. And fast forward, half a century later, the engagement manager, he got married, and it turned out his brother-in-law had owned Forge Hammer Entertainment, and he thought of me because he figured this would be right up my alley. So initially, we were talking, and he saw I was doing some virtual production and stuff in cinematics, and that's kind of what they initially wanted. But I was, he introduced me to David. We had a conversation, a brief conversation, and then I was emailing him, asking him about the lore of the world and that type of thing. And the fact that I was, interested in that before I'd even signed on, right before they'd officially hired me, I think went, a long way for them to say, hey, yeah, we like this guy. He's proactive. He's invested in the game and the story. So then my role kind of shifted more into the narrative side of things, right, where I could build the world's lore, build the factions and the characters, and and then move into quest design. And then, of course, I did do a cinematic trailer for them as well. And just so just being proactive and trying things out and saying, hey, what do you think of this? I think went a long way, right? Then I started posting some things on LinkedIn, and they thought, okay, yeah, maybe you should be a community manager too, right, to help build our community, right? So yeah, so that was I think my entry into it. But I had things to show, right? I was able to show my Soul Catcher series, and I was able to, he was able to, look at my video that I put together, and listen to the audiobook. So, so being able to showcase your skills in a portfolio, I think is very important. But, I guess, you never know where things might come over. It seemed kind of random, right? Where that just, popped up. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And similar to Matt, it's like, you can't always predict what the next move is going to be, but if you're prepared, and like you said, Matt, and both of you guys, if you're planting seeds and making connections, then eventually an opportunity will come your way. And every no is just one less before your yes, right? I know that a lot of you are working on some really cool projects, and I know a lot of you have some things to share. So if anyone wants to talk about what you're currently doing really quick before we wrap up, or projects you're working on, or opportunities you have, or resources, or anything you want to share with potential students, future students, or current students, please do. B, I know you have a couple things that you'd like to share, so you can jump in.
Yeah. So first, I just want to make some huge shout outs to people who, one, I've met in real life, two, I haven't. I hope to meet them maybe at a conference sometime. And they have a huge influence they're just on the pulse of everything. So the first one is Matt Wolf, and he has a YouTube channel, and he also has a website called futuretools.io. and he's got like 750,000 or 700 at least now. He's on his way to 1 million. But I started following him when he only had 1,200 followers. He was just trying to build a website to keep track of all the things that were happening. And so every week, even now, I just watched his latest. He's in Hawaii, and he's like, there's just so many things coming out. So, learning like different video models, different applications like text to 3D. He's really great, and he's a family guy. He's easy to watch, and he's really informative. So I just a huge, like I said, I bumped into him at AWE, and I was like, hey, Matt, how are you doing? And he's an awesome guy. So the next one is Heather Cooper, and she's also on X. And so what Heather is actually a pharmacist, but now she's a generative artist, and she has been there from the beginning, and she's on X. She shares freely her prompts. She tests Kling, Midjourney, the list goes on, right? About all the different innovations of, if you're into that and you're really liking, the generative art scene. She's, again, to video. The other one is Robert Scoble. He also has a newsletter, YouTube. He's very, very active. He's around my age-ish, and he's kind of salty, spicy, but he tells it like it is, and he's really involved in Tesla cars, and he's been around the block. I think he was a part of the beginnings of Surrey with Apple. So Robert Scoble, awesome guy. Scobleizer is I believe his handle. So he's been doing the self-driving cars and stuff. He's just really innovative. These people really care about they're really down to earth, and they give their information freely. And that's why I want to give them a huge shout out. And there's this one thing. Now, companies right now are really realizing a lot, especially spirit companies, where I'm looking at luxury high-end as well. But there's a company that I found out through a family member back east, and it is called Diageo. Oh my goodness. Digeo, Diego, but they are one of the world's largest spirits, and they're multi-billion-dollar company. But what they have, and I just found out about it, is they have a digital creation program where they're helping people. Basically, if you want to be innovative, you come on board with them, and they're going to help create projects. So there's a lot of companies that are investing a lot of time into learning how to use like augmented reality, virtual reality to, take their brands to the next level, because this generations that are coming, they've grown up with computers and cell phones in their hand, and they have high expectations, right? There's no more of that friction of how to use something. They want to be engaged, and how can you do that? And also there's some really great resources, AWE, all those breakout sessions I was talking about. You got that FOMO thing, like I can't be at 9 different places at the same time. They record all of those, and they have so many. So if you're really curious about the world of XR, go on YouTube, type in AWE, especially the ones from Europe, because you're going to get a whole different flavor from them. People from South Africa, how they're using huge data to manipulate buyers' choices. Basically, scavenger hunts and so forth. And they're all have the analytics to help, figure out what's working and what's not. So I guess it's still a very much a business game. And if you can bring some of those skills, or at least know what's going on beyond just creating something, I think that in itself will help you get a job or start your own business. So those are the resources I have to offer. And I hope that, again, conferences are big. I can't say enough good things about AWE. Sometimes they have webinars that you can jump in to learn about what's going on. I always take advantage of those. And I just want to say one last thing. By doing a webinar like once a week in your genre, a lot of people after the fact, because I try to comment and participate, I've always got one or two people who always after the fact going, I really liked what you had to say. Let's connect, and that's just building, even if we're in different realms, they're cool people. And I want to be part of the cool kid club, and I want to feel that good vibe, because that's really this is a really welcoming community if you participate. That's all I got to say. So I'm looking forward to hearing what other people might have to offer or say. So I'm going to be excited about learning more about that.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, B. Those are great resources. I found some of the LinkedIns from the folks you mentioned, and if you want to put any other links in the chat, please go ahead. That's awesome. Matt, I know you launched a game recently, but yeah, what's life looking like for you, and what are you working on? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. So I obviously have that game that's posted in the chat. That was an awesome experience. It's just released. I am joining on potentially an Unreal game project that is kind of in prototype stage right now. I don't have much to say about that, but I am constantly doing music. You can find my music and stuff through LinkedIn, or you can find me on Instagram at Matt Chu. But there's I'm actually in school for education right now, so I'm trying to once again kind of broadening my skills. So this time I'm trying to take on the education world to try to see if I can make some educational apps at some point. And I have a passion for teaching and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I'm at with that now. And I'm always making music, always dabbling in development. I'm still kind of in the process of getting more familiar with Unreal. And yeah, I think that's it, really. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. I put all three of your LinkedIns in the chat just now. So folks who are joining us, please go ahead and connect with them if you have any questions and things like that. And last, again, but certainly not least, Scott, what are you working on? What are you doing?
Yeah, so right now I am taking, 3 courses, 3 or 4 courses concurrently. Again, trying to, just get, fill out all the holes of things. I'm taking a course in UI and UX, taking another course in voice acting, and another one is more of an Unreal development. It's a shorter term program as well, and I've got a couple, digital music, orchestral cinematic composition courses that I'm kind of taking at my own pace. So, I guess my advice is keep learning. But I think some advice that I've got, and something that I've always struggled with, is specialization versus generalization. Right, because a lot of people, when companies are hiring, they're generally posting for, I want an Unreal developer that does this, and this. Right, they never really post for, I need someone to come in that can do a lot of stuff. Right, so that's a bit of a challenge. But I think just getting matter of just getting in front of the right people who appreciate someone who can do that is is fantastic. And I think narrative designer, game designer is pretty close to that. The other thing might be a producer role, right? Because you need to know a little bit about everything so you can get the right values and ask the right questions. So in terms of what I'm working on, nothing major right now. I'm fractional with a couple studios. I'm still on with Forge Hammer. In a support role. They would love to keep me, love for me to work full time for equity, but I can't pay bills with equity, unfortunately. And I'm working on a game jam, or a team that we worked with on a game jam. We won second place, and the sponsor asked us if we wanted to continue building it out. So I guess I can drop a link to that one. It's on itch.io, and it's called Starforge. Starflux. So
Yeah, definitely drop a link. That's awesome.
toss a link in here. And also, my personal project, I have, if and when I've got, enough time, I want to continue to build out a web series. I want this to be a multi-platform, multi-channel thing. I've got ideas for a game. I want to build out the story in a book format or a virtual production web series. So at some point I'll do that. My crazy idea would be to, have a Twitch stream where I'm just working kind of like Bob Ross style, right? where we're just, I'm just talking through what I'm doing, but, although it would be more of a, anything that I happen to be doing. I could be writing, I could be, leveraging ChatGPT to help me build some characters and brainstorm. I could be writing, I could be, doing Photoshop or using Blender or Dash Studio or, using Unreal to composite things, right? So, yeah, so that's my crazy idea, crazy ambition for when I get some extra free time. So I can share the link to it's a Steam link to Forge Hammer's game if you guys are interested in checking that out. I think the other thing that I'm working on is chemistry. This is gamified dating, which could be which would be interesting. So yeah, it's basically you adventure together, get to know each other before you get to exchange contact deets, right? So kind of get to know the person before you get too involved. So it's an interesting concept. So
Awesome.
okay.
Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Scott, and thank you to the three of you for joining us today and taking an hour out of your week. It sounds like you guys have a lot on the go, so we really appreciate it. Folks joining us today in the audience, there's a ton of links in the chat right now, so please copy and save what you'd like before we go ahead and end the event. There was one question. Scott had a great answer. It's about Blueprint and C# and that kind of thing. So Carlo, if you want to follow up more, I will just put my email up on the screen right now. Or sorry, this is my email, maddie@circuitstream.com. And I can connect you with some folks if you'd like to keep chatting, or our website as well is circuitstream.com. From there, though, we can go ahead and wrap here. I want to, again, thank you for joining us. Thank you to everyone in attendance for watching today. If you guys have any questions about our programs, if you want to reach out to these wonderful folks here up on the screen, I'm sure they would all be happy to connect with everybody. So thank you very much and have a great weekend, everyone. We will hopefully see you all very soon.
Yeah, thank you
everyone.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Have a good weekend.
Have a great weekend, guys. Thank you.